It's 8 o'clock in the morning and this is rush hour in Stockholm. Welcome to Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. Our journey so far has taken us from northern Norway in the Arctic Circle down here to Stockholm in the middle of Sweden, the capital city. And today we're travelling further south, right to the border. Join us for the journey. "48 hours in Stockholm has been just enough to see the main sights and check out some of the unexpected delights this city has to offer. It really is marvellous. And if you want to find out what we did, head back to the previous episode of the podcast. But today, 600 kilometres is the distance we're going to be travelling. It's all by train, it's all by one train, so no awkward connections to try and reach. And we're going from Stockholm Central to Lund. Now, Lund is a university town just outside of Malmö. In fact, it's about a 10-minute train ride to the city if you want to go and do that. And it's about 30 or 40 minutes from Copenhagen. Now, having been to the Danish capital before, I decided to check out a slightly smaller place and one that's been recommended to me. It's a university town and hopefully it's got plenty to offer for a quick afternoon of sightseeing. First though, let's get on that express train.
Ja, då har vi cirka 5 minuter kvar till Nässjö. Nässjö nästa, och där hittar vi plattformen på vänster sida i tågets färdriktning.
So here we are, speeding through the Swedish countryside on board this high-speed train down to Lund. Now, although it's quite noisy where I'm recording this, in there, in the first-class compartment, it's absolutely silent. I don't know whether it's a specific quiet compartment, but everyone's being very quiet. And the best thing about it, apart from the really comfortable seats and the peace of quiet, is that at the end of every first-class carriage, there is free tea, coffee, and fruit, no less. And the great thing is, people are actually permitted to and trusted with hot liquids on their own. Can you imagine doing that with passengers in the UK? There'd be absolute chaos. Anyway, well watered, well refreshed, and a nice place to relax for this journey, which is about, in total, 4.5 hours. And so here we are, we've arrived at the Bishop's Arms in Lund, a hotel above a pub, which I thought might be a little bit more cosy than this, but turns out it's quite corporate as we come into the room. It's a sort of extension on the side of the pub in a modern building, and got a big desk here. That's very good. Oh, bigger bed than I was expecting. And, a bathroom that requires a map of its own to navigate. It's enormous. One strange thing about this room, though, is that all the plug sockets are in the wrong place. So, for instance, here I've got a kettle on the desk, but the nearest plug socket is around the corner where the bed is, so you've got to trail the cables around. I don't know where I'm going to plug in my phone charger, but that's the least of my worries. I've got an early check-in, a comfy bed, I think a bit of a nap before I go and explore Lund. You only have to walk 5 minutes from Lund station to be engrossed in the history. This is a university town, and in front of me is a huge white classical building, which is the main university centre. And this seat of learning is exceptionally important because up until the 1650s, Lund was disputed territory. It was ruled by the Danes. Think about it. We're not that far from Copenhagen, just over the water from Lund. And the Battle of Lund in the 1650s solidified this area as Swedish territory. So it was in 1666 that the University of Lund was founded. Today, its campus is spread all over the town, but the most historical buildings are right in the centre, just by another important building behind me. Because here, and arguably more impressive, is the Kungshuset, the King's House. Going back to when Lund was controlled by Denmark, this building was erected for Denmark's King Frederick II between 1576 and 1584. It's got two distinctive sides to it with an enormous turreted tower at the front. A really striking design. And once again, within 2 minutes of arriving in the place, you are engrossed in history. The King's House was eventually handed over to the university, which was then developed into the campus that we see today. But if you think those buildings are old, this is the oldest of them all. Lund Cathedral, over 900 years old. It's open all day. You can come in and have a look around, including into the crypt, where you can see some of the deepest history of this city. And the cathedral itself, the front, is a magnificent twin tower affair, rebuilt around 1880. And the towers are known as the Lads of Lund. This makes them sound like a football team. The cathedral inside, it's got some stunning stonework. It's not perhaps as grand and ornate as some churches that you will see, but it certainly has a presence and a nice place to get in away from the cold on a day like today. Now, after the assault on the senses that we had in Stockholm with so much grand architecture, it's nice to be somewhere that's a little bit smaller. That's not to say that Lund doesn't have its charms. There are plenty of historic buildings, and like a lot of these towns, the best thing in the world is to look up from the street facades, because yes, there are many of the chain stores that you'll find in any town or city in this part of Europe, but there are also little independent shops selling really cute things, chocolate being one of them. And little small alleys as well, with fascinating doorways that lead to all kinds of stuff. Just around here, for instance, there's a vinyl record shop. It's only open for 4 hours a day, so you've got to get in quick to get your bargains. The size of Lund town centre doesn't make it sound as if it should have 94,000 people in it, but that's the official population. I suspect it's amplified by the university. In front of me is the Radhus, the town hall, a nice looking civic building, and next to it is a really modern building, the Lund Stadshall, which is a cultural centre and theatre. So performances can be found here on many nights. Not this night, nothing on tonight, but when you are here there might well be something on. Elsewhere, Lund by night has plenty to offer, including a fine selection of restaurants like Stacket, an Italian eatery in a historic building, beautiful pizzas, and a main course and a drink comes in at less than €20. Things are getting cheaper as we move south. Well, that wasn't the end of the fun last night, because after dinner I went to a pub where this happened. This is the man singing the very end of the Ukraine's national anthem, because Ukraine were playing Sweden in the World Cup qualifiers. Sweden won 3-0, so everyone in the pub was happy.
Travelling by train across mainland Europe is fairly straightforward, but there are a few things to beware of. Always make sure you have your passport and ID close to hand, and keep it safe. If you're using a rail pass, you may be asked to prove who you are. Travelling is generally safe and thefts are rare, but keep all of your valuables in sight.
So it's Friday and we're halfway through the trip, and our journey today is going to take us about 7.5 hours from here in Lund to Bremen in Germany via Copenhagen. It's about 400 kilometres, and hopefully we're going to be there by about 4:30 this afternoon. I say hopefully because German trains, Deutsche Bahn, are notoriously really bad timekeepers, which may surprise you, but the number of times that I've been delayed or missed a connection with Deutsche Bahn is quite incredible. That said, they are quite helpful because on the trains they have these displays telling you how late they are and how likely or not your next connection is going to be. So for that reason, I was on the 908 from Lund to Copenhagen, according to my rail pass, but I've got here a bit early and I'm able to get a train at 8:40. One of the advantages of having that rail pass is that you can often chop and change the services that you'll be using. So if your plans change, if you get up a little bit early, you can get on an earlier train. Bear in mind, not every single service is included in your pass, but the app will tell you which is and which is not. So we're about halfway through our journey now from Copenhagen to Hamburg, and this train is magnificent. These are the new Talgo trains. They've only been running since 2025, and they're a real improvement on what you used to get from the old DSB Danish Railways carriages. They're light, airy and modern. They're super efficient, really comfortable. And two things: you get an at-seat service of a little snack shortly after boarding, which is nice to know. There's free tea and coffee at the end of the first class car, and if you want something extra, there's a vending machine about halfway down the train. So 3 big improvements, and the biggest improvement of this is capacity, because the old Eurocity trains could only hold about 136 passengers. These ones can hold nearly 500. Well, what did I tell you? If anybody can, Deutsche Bahn can. Everything was going well on this journey so far until about half an hour outside of Hamburg, when we got a series of garbled announcements from the conductor saying that we were not going to the main station in Hamburg, we were going to one of the outlying stations. That outlying station changed about 3 times, and we've ended up at somewhere called Hamburg Altona, which is nowhere near the Hauptbahnhof. So I've got to get an S-Bahn train, which is included in my pass, to the main station, and then hope that my connection onwards to Bremen is good. Might miss it though. Let's see what happens. And some 9 hours after leaving Lund in Sweden, we are here in Bremen in Germany. It is Friday evening. This is the rush hour. This is the busiest place I've been on the whole trip. It's quite intimidating, but a cosy hotel awaits not too far away. Well, I said cosy hotel. This is one of those apartment hotels. So as well as them doing breakfast, there's a little kitchenette here with a sink and a kettle, even a hob and a microwave if you wanted to cater for yourself. All set out rather nicely. Little dining tables, a fridge, nice bathroom in there. Good. Looks like, a rain shower. Love a rain shower. And a really firm double bed. This is all very good, actually. And for a major city centre, it's good value. It's come in at less than €100 per night for a 2-night stay. And it's well within the reach of the old town of the city centre, and just 5 minutes walk away from the main train station. All good so far in Bremen. Now, like many towns in Germany, when you exit the railway station, you will be met by post-war horrible concrete everywhere. It's not the prettiest of places to arrive. But don't worry, it's not too far to get to the main sites here. Just go straight ahead, follow the route of the trams down the main street, and within about 10 minutes you'll be in the historic centre of Bremen. Now, it's true we don't normally do touristy at Travelcaster, but today in Bremen I'm going to make an exception for the Spitzelgabel pub in the old town. Well, it's a beautiful old building dating back to 1400, and before it was a pub, it was the offices of a piano moving company. Now, the piano movers, being professional as they were, weren't allowed to drink whilst they were on duty. So they came up with a quirky way of hiding their alcohol in a lamp and drinking from it. Hence the legend of drinking from the lamp, which you can do in this pub. What you drink from the lamp is a secret recipe only known to the owners. I'll just stick with a beer. But if you are coming here, please bear in mind, it's cash only. Bremen doesn't have any historic city walls, but what it does have is a moat going all the way around the old town area. These mounds of earth were built up back in medieval times, and waterways were added to allow an extra line of defence. It's a very attractive little park to walk through today, and if you turn right from the bridge that goes over the waterway from the main station area, you'll come up here to this beautifully restored windmill. This one dates back to 1830, although there was a mill on this site from the 1600s. At one point, the windmills were really important for Bremen's food production in terms of grain and flour. And today, this final mill that stands here has been converted into a rather nice cafe. So you can have a coffee and a cake while overlooking the moat, sitting beneath this splendid windmill. So we've just crossed the bridge, and there's a man here in a kilt playing the bagpipes. I'm going to try and find out why in a moment, but it's the most unusual sight I've experienced anywhere in Germany, I think. Well, I thought he might be from Scotland, but he's not. He says he's from Hamburg. Has no Scottish heritage whatsoever, but says that he learned to play the pipes himself. Good on him. Given him a couple of euro for his trouble as well. Turns out the bagpipe guy isn't the only entertainer in Bremen this morning. This pair doing a fine bit of opera in the middle of the shopping street by the tram stop. Full of entertainers, this place. On Saturday in Bremen, they wake up with this. Around about midday, you'll hear the sound of the cathedral bells ringing out across the city. But that's not what people have come to really hear. Step away from the marketplace, down one of the side streets, and you may encounter this. Because a crowd of about 150 people have come here to see the daily chiming of the Carillon on Butterstrasse. It's a 30-bell affair, and it chimes every day at midday. 10 carved wooden panels rotate as it does its thing, revealing explorers and aviators like Columbus, Lindbergh and Zeppelin. First installed in 1934 and restored in 1991. It's a must-see attraction. As I say, there's about 150 people here today, staring upwards, admiring the tunes and taking a video too. Today, Bremen remains a prosperous and confident city. 40,000 people work at the Mercedes-Benz plant here, and just north of the city is Germany's second largest seaport. Boeing and many other industries and technologies all have a presence here. You don't have to walk very far here to realise that this is a city of great contrasts. Like many locations in Germany, it was heavily bombed during the Second World War. In fact, Bremen, because of its closeness to the seaport, had more than its fair share of trouble. But here by the river, all ugly 1950s, 1960s buildings. A few steps away down here, though, is the quaintest and most beautiful little district that you'll see. This is Schnur, and remarkably for Germany, almost all of it survived the Second World War, and its historical buildings are still standing today. A lot of visitors here think that the buildings they see are reconstructions, but no, they're originals. It's a pretty little place of narrow lanes, gift shops, cafes, bars. Yep, it's time for a coffee and cake. Well, that coffee and cake came at an opportune moment because we've just experienced a real downpour here in Bremen. The Café Tolka in the Schnur district. Yes, it's a bit touristy, but delicious coffee and cake for less than €10. But get here early for a seat. It gets very busy. They've been turning customers away today because it's got such a good reputation. Now at Travelcaster we don't normally do retail because frankly there are enough shopping malls around the world that look exactly the same. But here in Bremen, something different. This is Manufaktum, a kind of department store with a difference because everything in here is made sustainably. That's what the claim is anyway. There's everything from little pots for your garden to, what's over here? Stationery. Nice journals for you to write your notes in. And over here, some artisan food. Meat and cheeses. Ooh, preserves as well. Something for an afternoon snack maybe. However, you don't need to get your fill of food here because just come with me into the adjoining building and we reach here. The Market Hall, which, like many market halls in cities like this, has become a food court of world cuisine. There are some wonderful smells around here and sights to see. I can see Spanish, I can see Indian, I can see Thai, I can see Italian, and yes, I can see some German food too. Smells delicious. Now, although St. Peter's Cathedral was attacked during the Second World War, its magnificent stone structure stood in place and only little bits of reconstruction have had to take place. So what you see is what's been here for hundreds of years. Let's see if we can go inside and have a look. It's a beautiful sight inside. Very busy actually this Saturday afternoon. Unusually for the cathedral though, the main altar here is in the centre of the church, not at the back. It appears to have been moved at some point, maybe to give the place, I don't know, a more homely and inclusive feel. Nevertheless, it's really impressive. Lots of stained glass going on, lots of sculptures and architecture around, and it's free of charge to get in. They do suggest a donation of €2, which you're more than happy to pay with your cash or your cards. And if you're feeling brave, you can go 60 metres up to the top of the tower for an additional fee. Now, normally at Travelcaster, we love a good tower, but it's a bit wet and a bit windy today, so I'm happy just to stay inside. Now, some people would argue that when you're in a European old town, it's hard to find an authentic place where the locals drink, but they haven't been to the Concorden House in Bremen, where not only is there a warm welcome, there's a fantastic selection of beers, and the bartenders know exactly what they're talking about. They'll give you some great recommendations here, and it's not too overpriced for a touristy area. Absolutely brilliant in here. I love it. Two or 3 days in Bremen has something for everyone. It's a really friendly city, I've found. And walking around during the day yesterday, looking at the Lund and all of the sights, quite good for families too. The nightlife is pretty good as well. Saturday night in particular gets a little bit, well, not rowdy, but boisterous at times. People do seem to be enjoying themselves a lot. For now though, the clocks have gone forward, spring or summertime has officially begun, and it's time for us to head ever further south. To find out how to get here and what to do when you arrive, head to travelcaster.blog, subscribe to the podcast, and join us again soon for another edition of Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there.